War movies are an interesting and sometimes divisive topic of conversation in the film community. I don't think I'd be adding anything new to the discussion, so I won't be going much into depth about my thoughts, but it probably wouldn't come as a surprise to anyone when I say I think some movies that are supposedly meant to be anti-war, like Saving Private Ryan, can be mistaken for cool action epics. I know that's what I thought when I watched it when I was younger. Sad, yes, but also badass. There are no funny boot camp scenes that accidentally spiked military recruiting numbers in this movie I'm talking about today, though. In the case of the movie I'll be talking about today, that sort of mistake would be incredibly difficult to make. It's not even really a war movie, and while it's 45 years old at the time I'm releasing this video, it rings as true today about the reality of war as it always has. The movie I'm talking about today is, of course, The Deer Hunter. The Deer Hunter premiered in 1978 and released widely to devastated audiences in 1979. It was written and directed by Michael Cimino, or maybe it's Camino. I really hope I'm pronouncing it right or I'm going to get cooked. And it stars Robert De Niro, Christopher Walken, and Meryl Streep. In short, The Deer Hunter follows a group of friends from a small town in Pennsylvania that are drafted to serve in the Vietnam War, depicting their lives before, during, and after the war. The Deer Hunter isn't the sort of movie that I tend to talk about on this channel, as it seems to be relatively well known and is no stranger to critical acclaim, having received 9 Oscar nods and taking home 4 of them. But despite all that, anecdotally, I've never actually met anyone who's seen this movie in my own generation outside my immediate family. It does have 240,000 logs on Letterboxd, but for a movie as good and as frankly old as this is, I'd expect the Letterboxd crowd to have this movie over 1 million watches. I haven't found many YouTube videos about it, so here I come to say my piece. I will be talking spoilers moving forward though, so definitely check this out if you haven't, but if you've seen it, or if you don't have 3 hours to burn anytime soon, here we go talking about The Deer Hunter. The humanization of our characters The Deer Hunter begins with tells you right away that this isn't going to be like war movies you're familiar with. Instead of opening with several jumps to various members of a platoon quickly showcasing their personalities as the quippy one, the angry one, the private, etc., we begin with these characters in their small towns and their homes with their loved ones, letting us in on a wedding within the group as well as their final deer hunting trip as a group, before shipping off to fight the domino effect in Vietnam. What makes this extra unique is that it lasts about an hour. And after that first hour, we head into Act 2, where this really becomes an anti-war movie. What makes this such an intriguing bit of anti-war cinema is that there is, but also is not, war. We as the audience understand the context of the Vietnam War going on around our characters, but the movie just sort of throws us into it, similar to how our characters were just thrown into it. There are no epic battles and no glorious deaths. The first shots we see from Vietnam include some huts getting firebombed by a chopper and a grenade getting dropped into a bunker full of women and children. All that exists in this depiction of the war is torment and death, and unsurprisingly, it's very hard to watch. This movie is almost the Vietnam equivalent of Come and See, and I might get shit in the comments for drawing the parallel, but The Deer Hunter is the only movie that has made me as sick as Come and See while watching it. To be able to project hopelessness through the screen so effectively has to be some sort of witchcraft, because after our protagonists are quickly captured, we get the roulette scene, which isn't for the faint of heart. Frankly, I don't think it's for anyone. This sucks so badly to watch, but that's also the point. It certainly doesn't hurt to have 2 of the greatest actors of a generation in the roles of our main characters to give the scene a little more weight, as their ideas of glory that come with war are shattered very quickly when you're being drowned and eaten alive by rats. As sickening as that is, showing us these atrocities is the only way to really portray what Camino clearly wants to portray here, which is that war is hell. The roulette game actually becomes a cornerstone of the remainder of the story, as this is the defining moment of the war for our characters. It's actually the only bit of the war we really experience with them. Their capture, time as POWs, and escape eats up about 30 minutes of the movie's runtime, but makes a much longer lasting impact on both the audience and the last hour and a half of the story. De Niro's character returns home aimless, confused about his feelings and even annoyed and disturbed by those around him's lack of awareness of how ugly life can be. He doesn't even really enjoy return hunting, as he intentionally elects a prize buckwalk, as a sign that he's tired of all this death around him and he appreciates life more. As we explore a return to civilian life with De Niro, we don't get the same with Walken, since his character never actually returned from Vietnam. Made it out of the war, yes, but never left Saigon. De Niro goes back to look for his old friend and torture buddy, who we find has made a name for himself as the most fearless roulette player in underground Vietnamese betting circles, and either pretends to or has completely forgotten De Niro by the time he's able to track him down to try to bring his old friend home. In an effort to get through to him, he buys in and sits down with his old friend for one last game of roulette, where Walken's character wears a red headband, which I believe symbolizes the red badge of courage. In that novel, the main character lies about having been shot in the head, resulting in his head bandage having a bloodstain demonstrating courage in battle, the red badge of courage. Walken's red badge of courage seems to me to come from his time at the roulette table in the war, having no other experiences to make his torment meaningful. At least he has the courage to do this. Courage and luck are two very different things, however, as their final match ends with Walken's character notching his first ever roulette loss of his career, right across the table from his old friend. Everybody loses, and everybody's broken, all for nothing, as we see the report that America is pulled out of Vietnam as the movie closes. This is the effect of war, and a grim and depressing yet important tale ends with the characters back home singing God Bless America, presumably mockingly. This movie sucks. I mean, it's fantastic, but it's brutally hard to watch and come to terms with. While it's not based on a true story, it wouldn't have been created if the feelings it portrays weren't harbored by so many. So what do you think of The Deer Hunter? Do you think it's been unfairly forgotten by time like I do? Let me know. That's all I've got today, though. Go ahead and click some of those buttons and send my channel to the moon. Thanks for sticking around this long, and I hope I'll catch you next time. From everyone at Middle Child Movie Studios, which is just me, cheers.